My name is Amanda. The morning my marriage split in two looked ordinary. I reached the office before sunrise. The lights clicked on one by one. Desks waited in neat rows. Contracts sat in a stack. Coffee steamed beside my keyboard. The logo on the glass wall reflected back at me like a seal of safety. I believed I was untouchable. By mid-morning the team was in motion. Phones rang. Printers hummed. I reviewed a vendor agreement. I was steady, focused. Then my personal phone buzzed. Daniel's name filled the screen. My husband rarely called me at work. My mind went to his parents. A health scare. A car accident. I answered at once. His voice was cold, flat. Amanda, I filed for divorce this morning. I want out. The pen fell from my hand. Say that again. I am done, he said. You are too busy. Too controlling. I refuse to live like this. Air thinned in my lungs. Where is this coming from? 2 nights ago you stood at my side. You smiled in every photo. You told my board you believed in me. He gave a short laugh with no warmth. I played a part. I am finished acting. Listen carefully. Take this quietly. Give me what I want. If you fight me, I will bring your secrets into court. Secrets? I whispered. What secrets? You think you are clean, he said. You are not. I know things. The public will love it. Agree to terms or I will bury you. The line went dead. I stared at the black screen. Office noise faded to a low hum. My assistant knocked and pushed the door open a few inches. Do you need anything? I am fine, I said, though my hand shook as I set the phone down. I was not fine. I felt the floor tilt. I tried to work. Words blurred. Numbers swam. I stood, walked the corridor and returned. The phone stayed silent. By late afternoon I sent the team home early. I told them we would regroup in the morning. I lied again. I needed an empty building to breathe. I drove home at dusk. The house stood still, perfect, staged. I opened the closet. Half his shirts were gone. Drawers stood open and empty. In the kitchen a single note waited on the counter. You will hear from my lawyer. I held the page until it creased in my fist. He had not only planned the call, he had packed first. He had rehearsed this exit. I walked the rooms like a stranger. Bedroom, office, garage. I noted what was missing. A leather folder he kept by the safe. A portable drive from the desk. A set of spare keys. Not random. Chosen. I sat at the dining table and made myself write. 1 line for every fact. He filed for divorce. He threatened secrets. He removed items from the house. He left a note, not a conversation. My pulse steadied as the page filled. Fear turned into a list. A list turned into a plan. If he claimed to hold secrets about me, then he was hiding larger secrets of his own. Men who bluff lean on noise. Men who are cornered lean on lies. I would test which one he was. I checked the home safe. Nothing inside was missing. Deed, insurance, tax files, all there. I checked the office cabinet. My compliance records were intact. My audits were clean. I had lived like a person who expected a fight. He forgot that. I opened our shared cloud folder. He had deleted a trail of personal photos. He had not touched the household budget. He had, however, renamed one private folder 3 days ago. New title. New date. Locked. That was not an accident. I poured a glass of water and watched the ice melt. The house was too quiet. My breath sounded loud. I called his phone. It rang once, then sent me to voicemail. I did not leave a message. I called again. Straight to voicemail. I stopped. I walked to the mirror in the hallway and studied my face. I looked like a woman who had been blindsided. I refused to end the night as one. I texted my closest friend, Lena. I need you tomorrow morning. Early. She answered within a minute. I am there. I opened a new file on my laptop. I titled it Counterplan. The word looked harsh and exact. I liked it. I wrote 3 steps. Step 1. Gather proof of everything I am and everything he is. Step 2. Find his secrets before he uses them. Step 3. Bring light where he plans darkness. I backed up my drive. I hid a copy off-site. I printed the first page of my plan and slid it into a folder. The front door creaked. For a second I thought he had returned. The house stayed still. Only wind moved the trees outside. I locked the deadbolt, checked every window and drew every shade. I would sleep, but only after I set the stage for war. I placed his note on top of my folder and sat very still. He believed divorce would destroy me. He believed the threat of shame would bend me to his terms. He believed a courtroom belonged to him. He did not know me at all. I turned off the last light and spoke into the dark room like it could carry my voice to him. You think you have secrets, Daniel? Tomorrow I start with yours. The next morning, sunlight cut across the kitchen table, catching the edge of the folder I had labeled counterplan. My daughter's photo sat on the refrigerator door. My company's logo glared from the laptop screen. I forced myself to eat a single piece of toast. My stomach churned too much for more. At 9 sharp, Lena knocked on the door. She didn't wait for me to answer. She let herself in, eyes sharp, carrying 2 coffees. What happened? She demanded. I handed her the crumpled note from Daniel. She read it once, then again. Her jaw tightened. He filed without warning? And he threatened you? Yes. My voice sounded colder than I felt. He said he knows things. Secrets that could ruin me. Lena set the coffee down hard. That's not a bluff. He's up to something. What did he take? I told her about the missing folder, the portable drive, the half-empty closet. Her brows knit. He's hiding something. Men like him always are. Let's find out what. We spent hours digging. Lena scrolled through his public profiles while I searched the household accounts. The surface looked normal: mortgage payments, utilities, predictable charges. But then I found them. Transfers made to an account I didn't recognize. Round numbers. Repeated monthly. Labeled as consulting. Consulting. Lena scoffed. Who is he paying? I clicked deeper, tracing the IBAN. My heart thudded. The name attached to the account was Rachel Klein. Rachel. The paralegal from his office. I had seen her at company dinners. Quiet, polite, never remarkable. But here she was, receiving money under the table. Thousands over the past year. I printed the statements and slid them into the binder. Proof. Not against me, against him. By noon, Lena's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, then showed me a photo sent from an unknown number. Daniel at a restaurant. Across from him sat Rachel. His hand was on hers. The caption read, "He is not yours anymore." Lena's face burned. She wants you to see this. She wants you rattled. I swallowed hard. My chest ached, but not from heartbreak. From fury. He was not only paying her, he was flaunting her. And now she was taunting me. At 3 o'clock, an email landed in my inbox. From Daniel's lawyer. Formal, cold. Our client requests immediate division of assets. Spousal support. Half of all holdings. Failure to comply will result in full disclosure of confidential matters during trial. Confidential matters. The threat again. I forwarded it to my attorney. I had worked with Amelia Reed before on corporate issues. She was sharp, precise, relentless. Within the hour, she called. "Bring everything you have to my office tomorrow morning," she said. "Do not answer his lawyer. Do not speak to Daniel. Let me see the threats, the transfers, the note. We will decide our next move." I agreed. My hand still trembled when I set down the phone. That evening, I checked Daniel's office. He had left one drawer unlocked. Inside was a flash drive. I plugged it into my laptop with shaking hands. Folders filled the screen: personal emails, scanned documents, and one video file. I clicked. Daniel sat in a bar with Rachel. He leaned close, speaking above the noise. His voice was clear enough to make my blood run cold. "Amanda thinks she's invincible. She built her empire, but she cut corners. She doesn't even realize I kept the files. When this divorce hits, I'll make sure the court sees what she's done." Rachel laughed softly. "And then she'll pay me to stay quiet. She'll give me what I want. She won't risk her reputation." I slammed the laptop shut. My pulse raced. What files was he talking about? What corners? I knew my records were clean. But if he had doctored documents, if he had planted something, the fight ahead would be brutal. Lena touched my shoulder. "He's bluffing. You've never cut corners. But he thinks lies will stick if he repeats them." I nodded, forcing my breathing to slow. Then we prove he's lying. We build stronger proof than he can fake. I slid the drive into my folder. Evidence. Of betrayal. Of intent. Of fraud. He thought he had me cornered. But he had just given me my first weapon. I looked at Lena and whispered, "Tomorrow we take this to Amelia. And when we're done, Daniel will wish he never threatened me." The next morning, I walked into Amelia Reed's office with my binder pressed tight against my chest. The building's glass walls reflected the morning sun, clean and sharp, like the woman waiting inside. She rose from behind her desk, her hand extended. "Amanda, sit. Tell me everything." I slid the binder across the polished wood surface. He filed for divorce. He threatened me. He said he has secrets that could ruin me. And he's paying Rachel Klein through consulting fees. Amelia opened the binder. Page after page of bank statements, screenshots, and notes stared back at us. Her brow furrowed. "You've already done more than most clients manage in weeks." "I can't afford to be weak," I said. She nodded once, then looked at Lena. "And you're here for support?" Lena crossed her arms. "I'm here for backup. Amanda isn't fighting this alone." Amelia smiled faintly. "Good. Because Daniel is dangerous. He's not bluffing. He's positioning. Men like him think leverage is the only language. If he says he has files, he has something, even if it's fabricated. We'll need to be airtight." She called in her paralegal, a wiry man named Peter, who set up a laptop and began cataloging every document. Dates. Transfers. Names. Amelia dictated as she scanned. Pattern of fraud. Unlawful transfers. Misappropriation. This isn't divorce leverage. This is criminal exposure. I swallowed. "Can we prove it?" "Piece by piece," she said. "But we'll need more. Financial audits. Phone records. Witnesses. If Rachel is his mistress in his funnel, she's the weak link. Women like her always leave trails." Lena leaned forward. "So what's the plan?" Amelia's eyes glinted. "We build a net. He thinks he's holding Amanda by the throat. But when he makes his move, the net will already be around him." That afternoon, Mason Grant arrived. Amelia introduced him simply. Private investigator. Discreet. Relentless. He shook my hand. His grip was steady, his gaze sharper than any lawyer's. "I'll start with Rachel. Background, financials, her connections to Daniel. If she's being paid, she's being recorded somewhere. People leave footprints." Within 2 days, Mason had delivered his first findings. A string of hotel reservations under Daniel's company card. Always client meetings. Always on weekends when I was home with board prep. Surveillance photos followed. Daniel and Rachel entering together, leaving hours later. He laid the pictures on Amelia's desk. Clear pattern. Clear affair. Clear misuse of company funds. I forced myself to look. My stomach twisted, but I didn't flinch. Put it in the binder. Next came phone records. Mason pulled logs showing late-night calls, messages at odd hours. One text, forwarded from Rachel's number, read, "Once the case starts, she'll fold. Don't worry. We'll be set." Amelia tapped the screen with her pen. "That is intent. She's involved. She's not just a mistress. She's a co-conspirator." Lena whispered, "They really think you're going to fold." "They'll regret it," I said. My voice surprised even me, calm, flat, certain. Over the next week, we gathered more. I pulled archived files from my company servers, proving compliance and spotless audits. Amelia prepared affidavits from employees willing to testify to Daniel's sudden absences, his temper, his lies. Mason tracked Rachel's spending. Designer handbags, vacations, even a down payment on a condo she could not possibly afford on her salary alone. Funded by Daniel, Mason concluded. All traceable. All damning. Still, the threat of those files lingered in my mind. What had he taken? What did he think he could use against me? One night, unable to sleep, I dug through the flash drive again. Most of it was noise, emails between Daniel and Rachel, lists of expenses, even photos of them together. Then I found a folder titled Insurance. Inside were documents marked with my name, my company's name, edited financial statements, numbers altered to suggest missing funds. My chest tightened. It was a fake trail, crafted to make it look like I had siphoned money. Lena leaned over my shoulder. He's planning to frame you. My breath came sharp. He wants the court to think I cut corners. He wants leverage. Amelia reviewed the files the next day. Her jaw set hard. Sloppy forgeries. Convincing enough for headlines maybe, but not in front of a judge with the right experts. We'll dismantle this line by line. In fact, the attempt itself becomes our evidence. Fabrication. Malice. Abuse of process. Relief washed through me, but it hardened into anger. He had not only betrayed me, he had plotted to destroy my name. That was his endgame. Then we go further, I said. We don't just survive. We expose him. Amelia met my eyes. That means timing. If we show too soon, he adjusts. If we wait until court, we bury him. Are you ready for that? I thought of the note on my counter. You'll hear from my lawyer. I thought of Rachel's hand in his at the restaurant. And I thought of my company's logo, shining in my office window, the symbol of everything I had built. Yes, I said. I'm ready. Mason slid a sealed envelope across the table. Then you'll want to see this. It's Rachel's condo lease. Daniel signed as guarantor. He left his own signature on her new life. The envelope Mason handed me sat heavy on the table. I opened it slowly, unfolded the lease, and stared at the signature scrawled across the bottom. Daniel's handwriting. His full name is guarantor. He had paid for her condo, tied his reputation directly to hers. Lena leaned over my shoulder, her voice sharp. He didn't even bother to hide it. He thinks he's untouchable. Amelia tapped the paper with her pen. This is gold. He isn't just supporting her quietly. He's financing her life. That's proof of misuse of funds, adultery, and fraud, all in one. I slid the lease into the binder. Then we make this part of the net. Amelia sat straighter. Amanda, it's time to formalize our approach. You can't just defend. You need a counterattack. If you try to weather this storm quietly, he'll spin the narrative. We go proactive. Mason pulled a laptop from his bag and set it on the table. The screen filled with folders, photos, and spreadsheets. I've built a timeline of his movements. Hotels. Transfers. Calls to Rachel. They overlap perfectly with Amanda's busiest periods. Board prep, audits, deadlines. He used her distraction as cover. I scanned the chart. Every detail stacked against him. My hands tightened into fists. He thought I'd never notice. Amelia's eyes sharpened. Here's the strategy. First, we lock down your assets. I'll file motions to freeze accounts Daniel can access. He won't bleed money out while we prepare. Second, we prepare to expose Rachel. She's not just a mistress, she's complicit. We prove she accepted fraudulent payments. That ties her to him legally, not just emotionally. Lena crossed her arms. And third, Amelia said, we save the reveal for court. Not just paperwork. A show. His own words, his own actions laid bare where a judge cannot ignore them. I took a long breath. So we set a trap. Mason nodded. Exactly. Let him believe he's in control. Let him think you're rattled. He'll push harder, take more risks. And every move he makes gives us more ammunition. Lena smirked. He has no idea what's waiting for him. The next week became a war room. Amelia's office turned into our command center. Every morning I arrived with new files, corporate compliance records, clean audits, staff testimonies. Mason brought surveillance photos, bank logs, phone traces. Lena kept track of timelines, making sure every piece fit together. By the end of the week, the binder was twice as thick. Amelia flipped through it with satisfaction. This isn't just a defense. This is a demolition. By the time we're finished, he'll be the one begging for settlement. Still, the threats didn't stop. That Friday, I found another message slipped under my office door. No name, no number. Just typed words on a single sheet. If you fight, you'll regret it. Walk away now. Lena crushed the paper in her fist. He's desperate. This is his fear showing. I tucked the note into the binder. Let him threaten. Every word adds weight to my case. That night, Mason called me with another update. His voice was clipped, controlled. I followed Rachel. She met Daniel at a private club downtown. They talked about the trial. I caught audio. He sent the file. I pressed play. Daniel's voice spilled through the speaker, smug and certain. Amanda won't last. I planted the files. She'll fold when she sees them. The court will believe me. Men like me always win. I closed my eyes, fury surging hot. He didn't just betray me. He believed the system itself was his weapon. The next morning, Amelia gathered us again. Amanda, it's time to decide. Do we keep building quietly until trial, or do we stage a controlled reveal earlier, somewhere he doesn't expect? I thought of his smirk, his laugh in that recording. My jaw clenched. We hold. We let him walk into court confident. And then we end him. Amelia's lips curved into a rare smile. Then it's settled. We'll prepare for the execution. We spent hours rehearsing. Amelia drilled me on questions a judge might ask. Mason explained how to authenticate the recordings. Lena practiced reading timelines aloud, each word clear and sharp. When I faltered, Lena squeezed my hand. Remember the night he left you. Remember the silence in that house. That's what you're fighting against. I nodded, steadying myself. I'll remember. As the session ended, Mason's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his expression darkening. He's making his move. Daniel just booked a press conference for Monday morning. He plans to tell the world his version first. Mason's words echoed in the room. Daniel just booked a press conference for Monday. Amelia leaned back in her chair, her pen tapping against the binder. Classic. He wants to control the narrative. If he paints you as unstable first, the public will swallow his version before we present the truth. Lena shot forward in her seat. So we shut him down before he opens his mouth. We leak what we have. Amelia shook her head. Too soon. A leak now looks defensive. Judges hate theatrics. We need the truth to land in court, not in gossip columns. I crossed my arms. So what do we do? If he speaks first, won't that poison everything? Mason set his laptop on the table, pulling up a map of Daniel's movements. Not if we control the timing. Let him stand in front of the cameras. Let him gloat. But while he speaks, we drop evidence where it matters. Filings, injunctions, official records. By the time reporters repeat his lies, they'll be contradicted by the court. Amelia smiled faintly. Exactly. We don't fight him on his stage. We build our own. Monday morning, before his press conference begins, we'll file a motion with the court. Abandonment, fraud, misappropriation, adultery. With exhibits. The binder becomes evidence. Lena grinned. So by the time he talks, the truth is already public record. Yes, Amelia said. And once it's filed, he can't spin it away. It becomes fact. I took a slow breath, feeling the plan take shape around me. Then let's make Monday the day his world collapses. The next 48 hours were a blur of preparation. Amelia and her team worked through the night, scanning every document, authenticating each bank statement, certifying the surveillance photos. Mason secured affidavits from hotel clerks, staff who remembered Daniel and Rachel checking in together. Lena organized timelines, color-coded, cross-referenced. We rehearsed again. Amelia played the role of opposing counsel, her questions sharp and cruel. Isn't it true, Amanda, that you were too busy with your company to be a wife? Isn't it true Daniel only turned to Rachel because you neglected him? My fists tightened, but my voice stayed steady. No. The evidence shows Daniel funded Rachel for over a year. He lied to me, not the other way around. Amelia nodded, satisfied. Good. Stay cold. Stay factual. Passion is his weapon. Calm is yours. Sunday night, Lena stayed over. We sat in the living room, papers spread across the coffee table. My daughter slept upstairs. Lena poured tea and said quietly, Are you ready for tomorrow? Yes, I said. My voice didn't shake. He thinks divorce will destroy me. Tomorrow I destroy his secrets instead. The next morning we arrived at the courthouse at dawn. The sky was still gray. Reporters already gathered outside, their cameras waiting for Daniel. Amelia's team marched inside with boxes of files. Mason carried the laptop with the recordings. I carried the binder, heavier than ever but no longer a weight. It was a weapon. At 8 sharp, Amelia filed the motions. Fraud. Abandonment. Misappropriation. Requests for financial freezes. Requests for sole custody. Attached. Exhibits A through F. Bank statements. Photos. Video transcripts. The forged files Daniel had created, now flipped into evidence of malice. By 8:30, the filings hit the public docket. Reporters' phones buzzed with alerts. Screens lit up. Headlines began to form before Daniel even stepped onto his stage. At 9, Daniel walked to the podium in a tailored suit, Rachel just behind him. Flashbulbs exploded. He adjusted the microphone, his smile wide. "Good morning. I want to clear up the lies my wife has been spreading." But before he could continue, a reporter shouted from the front row. "Mr. Ross, how do you respond to today's filings? Fraud. Abandonment. Evidence of hotel stays with Rachel. Can you deny those?" Daniel blinked, caught off guard. "What filings?" Another reporter thrust a phone in the air. "It's already public record. The court released it half an hour ago." The crowd murmured. Cameras zoomed in. Rachel's face drained of color. Daniel tried to laugh. "Fake. All of it. Amanda's desperate." But another reporter pressed. "What about the condo lease you signed for Rachel? Your signature is right here. Public record now. Care to explain?" His smile cracked. I watched from Amelia's office window across the street, the live stream glowing on her monitor. My lips curved into the faintest smile. On screen, Daniel's face twisted as reporters closed in. He stammered. "This is all misinterpreted." But the cameras caught everything: the panic, the cracks, the unraveling of a man who thought he controlled the game. The press conference should have finished Daniel. By noon, clips of his stammering face spread across every network. Reporters replayed the moment he was asked about the condo lease, the bank transfers, the hotel stays. His denial sounded hollow. The headlines grew sharper with every hour. Ross exposed. Secret mistress funded. Court filings dropped bombshells. I sat in Amelia's office, binder on my lap, watching the coverage. For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to breathe. The tide had turned. Then Mason's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, and his expression darkened. He muted the call, turning to us. "That was my contact at the courthouse. Daniel just filed a counter-motion." Amelia stiffened. "On what grounds?" Mason unmuted. The voice on the other end was clear. "He claims Amanda misappropriated funds from her own company. He submitted documents. Altered financial statements." My stomach dropped. "The forgeries. The ones we found." Amelia cursed under her breath. "He actually filed them. He's brazen enough to present fabricated evidence." Lena slammed her hand on the table. "But we have proof they're fake. We can shred them." Amelia shook her head. "Not immediately. Judges don't dismiss claims without review. Even with our experts, this delays the case. Worse, it muddies the narrative. Now it's his word against hers until the analysis comes back." I clenched my fists. "So he bought himself time." "Yes," Amelia said grimly. "And Daniel thrives in chaos. He'll spin this as Amanda isn't clean either. Reporters love symmetry. Both sides accused, both sides guilty. It blurs the truth." Mason typed furiously on his laptop, pulling up the filings. "Here. Look." He attached the forged statements, marked as Exhibit B. "Claims you hid money offshore." I scanned the papers, fury rising. The numbers were close enough to reality to sting, altered just enough to paint guilt. He's betting the smear sticks longer than the truth. Amelia's jaw tightened. "We'll file for immediate forensic review. Our auditors will dismantle this line by line. But until then, Amanda, you'll be under a shadow." The phone in Amelia's office rang. She answered, listened, and handed it to me. "It's a reporter." I hesitated, then pressed the receiver to my ear. A man's voice. "Amanda, this is Ryan Porter with Channel 8. Daniel's accusing you of hiding company funds. Do you want to comment?" My throat dried. If I spoke, every word could be twisted. If I stayed silent, his lie might spread unchecked. Amelia whispered, "Say nothing. Let filings speak." I forced out the words. "No comment." By evening, headlines shifted. Ross counters. Both parties face misconduct claims. The symmetry Amelia warned about had already taken hold. Lena paced my living room as we regrouped. This isn't fair. You did everything right. And now he paints you the same as him. I sat on the couch, my daughter asleep upstairs. My chest felt heavy, but my mind refused to surrender. Then we prove him wrong faster. We don't just wait for auditors. We dig deeper. Mason leaned against the wall. I'll pull server logs. Metadata. If he forged those documents, traces will lead back to his machine or Rachel's. Forensics don't lie. Amelia nodded. And I'll push the court for an expedited review. Judges don't like games with fabricated evidence. If we can show his fingerprints on those files, this turns back on him. The house was quiet except for the ticking clock. I stared at the binder on the table. It was thick with evidence, but now tainted by his lie. He wants to bury me under paper, I whispered. He thinks volume wins. Lena stopped pacing. So we hit him with volume 2. Not just defense exposure. Every witness, every recording, every receipt. We bury him under the weight of his own truth. I looked at her, then at Amelia and Mason. Slowly the fire returned to my chest. Then that's what we'll do. He wants a war of documents? We'll drown him. Mason's phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen, then cursed. It's worse. Someone leaked the forged files to the press. They're already running stories with your name next to embezzlement. If we don't move fast, Amanda, his lie will stick before we get our chance to kill it. The forged documents spread like wildfire. By morning, every major outlet carried the same headline. Divorce turns ugly. Both sides accused of fraud. My name stood beside Daniel's, and for a moment, the symmetry he wanted seemed to stick. But Amelia had anticipated his move. She walked into the war room at 7 a.m. Her heels sharp against the floor, carrying a new folder. The auditors worked through the night. They found the fingerprints. Mason leaned forward. Show us. Amelia opened the folder. Inside were printed pages, red marks circling metadata records. These forged files were created on Daniel's personal laptop. The timestamps line up with evenings he claimed to be at work. Even better, Rachel's login credentials were used to save the edits. Lena let out a low whistle. So he tried to frame Amanda, and now the forgeries point straight back at him. Amelia's eyes glinted. Exactly. Judges hate fabrication. This isn't just a failed smear, it's perjury. We'll use this to shred his credibility. At 9 we entered the courthouse. Reporters swarmed the steps, shouting questions, but Amelia kept her pace steady. Inside, the gallery was packed. Daniel sat at the opposite table, Rachel beside him, her face pale. He wore his usual smug smile, though his eyes darted nervously. The judge entered, calling the session to order. Daniel's lawyer rose first. Your Honor, my client presents exhibits showing Mrs. Ross misappropriated company funds. This is why we request majority control of assets and... Amelia stood smoothly. Objection. These exhibits are forged. And we can prove it. The judge raised a brow. Proceed. Mason connected his laptop to the courtroom system. The screen lit up with the documents Daniel had filed. Then Mason overlaid the metadata. Timestamps. IP addresses. User logins. Amelia's voice was calm but sharp. These files were not created by Amanda Ross. They were created on Mr. Ross's laptop. Saved under MS. Klein's credentials. Each alteration is documented. This is not misappropriation. This is fabrication. The gallery buzzed. Reporters scribbled furiously. Daniel shifted in his seat, his lawyer stammering. This can't be verified. Amelia cut him off. It is verified, Your Honor. Independent auditors confirm it. We submit sworn affidavits from 2 forensic experts. These files were planted. The judge leaned forward, eyes hard on Daniel. Mr. Ross, is this true? Daniel's face reddened. No. She's twisting it. Amanda is the liar. Amelia didn't flinch. Then let us play the recording. Mason tapped his keyboard. The speakers filled with Daniel's voice. Captured at the bar with Rachel. Amanda thinks she's invincible. She built her empire, but I kept the files. When this divorce hits, I'll make sure the court sees what she's done. Rachel's laugh followed, sharp and unmistakable. The courtroom erupted. Gasps. Murmurs. Phones recording from every angle. The judge banged his gavel. Order. I stood, my voice steady. He tried to destroy me with lies. But the truth exposes itself. He betrayed our marriage. He funded his mistress with stolen money. And when that wasn't enough, he fabricated evidence to bury me. Daniel slammed his fist against the table. You can't prove. Mason switched the screen again. Side-by-side photos appeared. Daniel's signature on Rachel's condo lease matched with his signature on official company filings. Identical. Undeniable. The judge's voice was cold. Mr. Ross, this is perjury, fraud, and contempt of court. You will remain silent until counsel advises otherwise. Daniel collapsed back in his chair, his confidence gone. Rachel clutched his arm, whispering frantically, but he shook her off. The gallery's whispers grew louder. He's finished. Amelia closed her binder with a decisive snap. Your Honor, this case is no longer about divorce. It is about fraud and abuse of process. Amanda Ross has come here with truth. Daniel Ross has come here with lies. The judge nodded slowly. I will review all evidence. But today's proceedings make one thing clear. Credibility rests with Amanda Ross. I sat down, my chest rising with steady breaths. For the first time, Daniel had no words left. As the judge called for recess, a bailiff slipped a note onto Amelia's desk. She read it, her eyes narrowing, then passed it to me. For words typed in bold, this isn't over yet. The gavel struck, calling recess, but the courtroom was anything but calm. Voices exploded as soon as the judge stepped out. Reporters rushed to the doors to get their stories out first. Spectators whispered harshly, their words cutting through the air like blades. Daniel stood, shoving his chair back so hard it scraped the floor. He spun on Rachel, his voice low but vicious. You were supposed to keep this clean. Rachel pulled her arm free. Me? You're the one who signed everything. You told me no one would ever find out. Several reporters caught the exchange on their phones, cameras raised high. Daniel noticed too late. He turned his back, trying to shield his face, but the damage was done. Amelia leaned toward me, her voice firm. Do not react. Let him implode. Every outburst is more proof. Mason packed up the laptop, his eyes flicking toward the bailiff still hovering by the judge's bench. That note wasn't random, he muttered. He still has someone feeding him lines. He's not finished. I sat straight in my seat, hands folded in front of me, even as my pulse hammered. Across the aisle, Daniel's lawyer was sweating, flipping papers with trembling hands. We request to adjourn, he stammered to the clerk. The clerk shook his head. Judge will return in 20. Reporters outside the doors shouted questions through the crack. Amanda, how do you respond to Daniel's claims now that evidence shows forgery? Rachel, did you know the files were fake? Daniel, do you plan to step down from your company? Rachel buried her face in her hands. Daniel stormed to the corner of the courtroom, gripping his phone tight, whispering frantically into it. His shoulders were hunched, his whole body shaking with anger. Lena leaned close to me, her voice barely a whisper. He's unraveling. Everyone can see it. Amelia nodded. Which is why we stay silent until the judge returns. Control is power. When recess ended, Daniel tried to recover. He smoothed his suit jacket, straightened his tie, and forced a smile. But his voice cracked as he addressed the judge. Your Honor, this is a coordinated attack. Amanda hired investigators to harass me. These so-called records were stolen, not obtained legally. Amelia rose calmly. Your Honor, everything presented today was gathered through lawful discovery and subpoena. Unlike Mr. Ross's fabricated evidence, our exhibits are authenticated by independent experts. The judge's gaze hardened. Mr. Ross, unless you can prove unlawful conduct, your accusations carry no weight. Daniel sank back down, his composure breaking piece by piece. By the end of the session, the judge announced a temporary ruling. Financial accounts frozen under Amanda's sole management, custody remaining with Amanda until final hearing, and a formal investigation into Daniel's conduct. The gallery erupted again. Reporters surged forward, shouting louder than before. Amanda, How does it feel to win control of the assets? Daniel, will you face criminal charges? Rachel, are you cooperating with investigators? Court officers escorted us out through a side exit, but even there, cameras waited. Bright lights blinded me as microphones were shoved toward my face. Amelia blocked them with a hand. No comment. Statements will be released later. We climbed into the waiting car. As the door shut, silence wrapped around me. My hands trembled from adrenaline. Lena squeezed my shoulder. You were brilliant. You didn't let him rattle you once. Mason exhaled. But he's cornered now. And a cornered man is dangerous. I stared out the window at the courthouse fading behind us. Reporters still clustered on the steps. Daniel's face, red and furious, would be splashed across every evening news broadcast. Rachel's tears would flood social media by nightfall. But Mason's words echoed in my mind. Dangerous. Daniel wasn't done. He would claw at whatever scraps of control he had left. And the note, "This isn't over yet," still burned in my pocket. That night, back at home, the victory felt hollow. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I checked every lock twice. My daughter slept peacefully upstairs, unaware of the storm outside. Lena stayed with me, sitting in the living room while I paced. Amelia called at 9 with updates. The judge's orders are strong. He's stripped of access for now. But the investigation could stretch weeks. Be ready for anything. After we hung up, I poured water and sat at the table, staring at the binder still thick with evidence. My plan had worked. The truth had landed. But the war wasn't finished. Just past midnight, my phone buzzed on the counter. A new message, no number attached. 4 words glared back at me. See you tomorrow, Amanda. The message, "See you tomorrow, Amanda," haunted me through the night. I slept in fragments, waking at every creak of the house. At dawn, Lena made strong coffee while Mason swept the property for trackers and cameras. Nothing. Just silence and that single threat lingering in my phone. By 8, Amelia's call came. Today is critical, she said. The judge reconvenes at 10. Daniel's team will try one last time to salvage him. But after yesterday, the scales are against him. Stay composed, Amanda. Let the evidence finish the work. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. My daughter's soft breathing upstairs reminded me why I couldn't falter. At the courthouse, reporters swarmed harder than ever. Headlines shouted from their lips. Fraud exposed. Ross on the ropes. Court showdown today. Amelia's hand stayed steady on my back as we cut through the chaos. Inside, the tension was thicker than before. Daniel sat at the defense table, his suit rumpled, his eyes bloodshot. Rachel wasn't beside him this time. Her chair sat empty. His lawyer whispered frantically, but Daniel didn't listen. He stared at me with a look that was part rage, part desperation. The judge entered and silence fell. His voice was calm but heavy. We reconvened to address the credibility of evidence presented, the financial misconduct alleged, and the matter of custody. Daniel's lawyer rose first, his tone brittle. Your Honor, while we acknowledge inconsistencies in certain documents, we maintain that Mrs. Ross has exaggerated claims against my client. These are marital disputes, not crimes. We urge the court not to dismantle a man's life over emotional grievances. Amelia stood immediately, her binder precise in her hands. Your Honor, what we presented yesterday was not emotion. It was fact. Independent experts confirmed the forgery of documents. Metadata traced the edits directly to Mr. Ross's laptop, using Ms. Klein's credentials. We now have sworn testimony from Ms. Klein herself submitted this morning. The judge's eyes narrowed. Testimony. Amelia passed the clerk a sealed affidavit. Ms. Klein has confirmed under oath that Mr. Ross directed her to alter files. He promised her financial security in exchange for cooperation. She admits regret and has agreed to cooperate fully with investigators. The gallery gasped. Daniel's head snapped toward the empty chair beside him. His lawyer's face drained of color. She's lying. Daniel shouted. The judge's gavel struck. Mr. Ross, control yourself. Mason connected his laptop once more. The screen filled with emails Rachel had turned over that morning. Daniel's own words. Finish the edits. Make it look clean. She'll fold if the numbers are close enough. The gallery buzzed louder. Phones flashed. Reporters scribbled at lightning speed. Amelia's voice cut through the chaos. Your Honor, this is not a matter of exaggeration. This is documented fraud, perjury, and harassment. Daniel Ross attempted to weaponize the court with falsified evidence. He abandoned his wife during labor, funded a mistress with stolen money, and now sought to destroy Amanda Ross with lies. I rose, my hand steady on the table. He thought divorce would break me. Instead, it exposed him. Daniel slammed his hands on the desk, shouting, "She's ruining me. She's taking everything." The judge's gavel cracked again. "Mr. Ross, enough. Sit down." The silence that followed was suffocating. The judge shuffled the papers, read for a long moment, then spoke. This court finds Daniel Ross guilty of presenting falsified evidence, an act constituting perjury and fraud upon this court. Effective immediately, Mrs. Ross retains sole custody of the minor child, sole control of marital assets, and exclusive ownership of her business interests. Furthermore, this court refers the matter of fraudulent evidence to the district attorney for potential criminal charges. The gallery erupted. Gasps, murmurs. Reporters rushed for the doors. Daniel collapsed into his chair, his head in his hands. His lawyer sat frozen. Across the aisle, Amelia closed her binder with calm finality. Mason allowed himself the smallest nod. Lena squeezed my hand under the table. The judge's gavel struck once more. Court adjourned. I stood slowly. For weeks I had imagined this moment, but now it felt surreal. Daniel's shoulders slumped, his entire frame deflated. He looked up at me one last time, his voice hoarse. "You'll regret this, Amanda. I'll make sure of it." I held his gaze. "No, Daniel. The only thing you'll regret is underestimating me." Bailiffs closed in around him. Reporters swarmed the courthouse steps. Cameras caught every angle as Daniel was led out, his face pale and broken. That night, as I tucked my daughter into bed, my phone buzzed again. A news alert lit the screen. Daniel Ross under criminal investigation. Possible indictment imminent. The courthouse faded in my rearview mirror, but the echoes of the gavel still rang in my ears. For weeks I had lived in fear, hunted by threats, cornered by lies. Now Daniel sat on the edge of criminal indictment, his empire in ruins. Back at home the house felt different. Not silent like before, but alive. My daughter's laughter drifted from the nursery. Lena hummed in the kitchen, her hands busy with dinner. Mason sat at the table, sorting through what remained of the binder, already thinking about final reports. And Amelia stopped by, handing me one last envelope. "Final decree," she said simply. "It's all yours now. Custody, assets, control. And Daniel won't be near you or your daughter again without a court officer watching." I signed my name at the bottom of the page, my hand steady. The paper didn't just end a marriage, it ended his power over me. That night, when the house grew quiet, I stepped outside. The city lights glowed in the distance. I breathed the cool air, heavier but freer than it had ever been. Daniel had believed divorce would destroy me. He had believed that lies, forged documents, and threats could break me down. But all they had done was reveal him. The man who thought he held every secret was the one buried by his own. I thought of the moment in court when the judge's ruling came down. The gallery gasping. Reporters rushing out the door. And Daniel's face when Rachel's affidavit exposed him. He had lost not only his case but his pride. Lena joined me on the porch, handing me a mug of tea. "It's over," she said softly. I shook my head. "It's not over. It's just different now. He'll face his charges. But for me it's finished. I don't need to fight anymore. I can live." The next weeks proved her right. Headlines carried his downfall. Ross under investigation. Ross empire collapses. Mistress turns witness. Investors pulled out. His company bled dry. And me? I rebuilt in peace. At night, when I rocked my daughter to sleep, I whispered promises to her. "You'll never believe that betrayal defines you. You'll never doubt that strength is possible. You'll never mistake lies for truth." Because that was the lesson Daniel had given me, even in his cruelty. That when someone tries to erase you, you write yourself back in darker ink. And now as I sit here telling this story, I know the truth. He thought divorce would destroy me. Instead, it destroyed him. If you've ever been told you're weak, worthless, or doomed to lose, remember Amanda. Remember the woman left for dead in court, only to rise with proof, allies, and fire in her chest. Betrayal is real. Lies cut deep. But revenge doesn't have to be dirty. Revenge can be truth revealed at the right time, in the right place to the right audience. He thought divorce would break me. I broke his secrets instead. If this story resonated with you, share it. Subscribe for more stories where betrayal is met with justice. And remember, no matter who underestimates you, no matter who walks away thinking you'll never rise again, your strength might be the very thing that destroys their lies.